Good evening and welcome everybody to another YouTube live event with New Mexico Military Institute. My name is Chris Ward and I'm the Director of Admissions here at NMMI. We know it's hard to get to Roswell and check campus out. We do these interactive videos and we want to bring you some folks that will talk about their experience, whether they're alumni, current cadets, and in this case tonight, we're going to be talking with some parents. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce the guests tonight. We'll start with Miss Dina Kernett.
Hello, I'm Dina Kernett. I have a cadet that just graduated junior college, Gus Kernett. I also had another cadet attend NMMI. He graduated in 2018. And I have one son where we recognize that New Mexico Military Institute was not for him.
Thanks, Dina. And then we've got Travis and Tommy Hicks tonight with us as well.
Hello, I'm Travis. This is my wife, Tommy. We have a son that just graduated NMMI this past Saturday and one that's currently a freshman and live here in Roswell. So get to have a lot of experience with the NMMI faculty, staff, and are happy to answer any questions we can.
Tonight is going to be interactive, so please ask questions while the chat is going on. You can ask those questions using hashtag #AskNMMI. You can use the YouTube chat function, or you can snap them at NMMI Life. So with that being said, Travis, Tommy, I'm going to start with you guys. How did you learn about NMMI, and what were your first impressions when you actually came on campus for a visit, for a tour?
So speaking for myself, I've been aware of NMMI my whole life. We have cousins, family members that have gone here literally, since the very beginning, a long time. I was actually supposed to come here. I grew up in El Paso. And I was supposed to start here in 9th grade, but my mother lost her mother the summer before I started and didn't want to lose her son at the same time. So I didn't end up coming to NMMI. Ended up in Roswell, have a business here, and really have planned on sending our boys to NMMI from the very, very beginning. We've had the benefit, because we're in the community, of experiencing the impact that NMMI has on the town and everything else. And we never got anything but real positive vibes about sending our kids here. We sent Jackson to leadership camp, which was a great experience. Gave him a real, a great idea of what it is that he was going to be getting into. And then when he started as a rat his freshman year, very quickly he thought we had made a horrible mistake. And I mean, by very quickly, I mean we were like 2 hours from dropping him off. And we didn't leave him with a phone because we were told that was a bad idea. But he found a phone and was calling us. And then again, a lot of meat in the middle, but the end of the story is that he graduated on Saturday and is actually received a full scholarship to play golf here for junior college. So he clearly came around and ended up having a wonderful experience. Our 9th grader, a very different situation in the sense that his big brother went there. He really knew a lot of people here and already, and came in, just super excited about it, and remains very excited about it. So, so to answer the question, I mean, I think we started with a great idea of what NMMI was, very positive, and have been pleasantly surprised over and over and over with how much better than even what we thought it was going to be. It has been. So,
Tommy, anything you want to add to that as far as your first impressions? I know you came on a campus visit and got to walk around campus with both boys. So anything you want to add to that?
Well, I was very impressed. I knew that the structure and the independence that they would gain was absolutely something that they needed. I was well aware that if I had them at home, I would be doing their laundry and picking up after them and bringing their lunch if they forgot it at school, and they'd not have to suffer any of the consequences for not doing those things on their own. So I knew in my heart that it was the best thing for them, as well as the best academic option that we had in town. And so I had peace about that. Letting go of a 14-year-old though, and letting them move into a room at a boarding school was difficult, more difficult than I anticipated, but has been such a great thing for my sons.
And then Dina, I know this is kind of a loaded question for you as far as, how did you learn about NMMI? But, your first impressions, I know you're an employee here at NMMI, but your first impressions as a parent, maybe, is there something you want to add to that?
So I started teaching at NMMI in 2007. Before that, I actually came and watched my cousins' graduations at NMMI and knew that that's where I wanted to go to school, but my dad was not so excited about that, and I did not come to school here. When I moved to Roswell, I knew that I hoped that my boys would also be able to come to NMMI. And when I got the job here, it made it that much easier to get my boys to NMMI. But I wanted my kids to participate in those parades that I drove by or that I watched cadets in my class take place in. I wanted my kids to learn what these kids in NMMI classes were learning. So I was all about wanting them at NMMI to experience those things that they were not going to get anywhere else on this earth.
And I think that's a good parlay, Dina, into the next question, just to keep you on the spot. But what led you to look at an alternative educational option?
Probably the academics. I wanted my kids to experience some challenge that I didn't think they were getting in the public schools. They weren't in enriched classes. They weren't in honors classes. They didn't qualify for those. At NMMI, everyone starts at the same place, and that was the challenge.
And then same question over to you, Travis and Tommy. What kind of led you guys to look at an alternative educational option for your kids?
For me, again, there's really a long legacy of family and friends who've gone here. I had an expectation for what they were going to get from the discipline, side of the coin, from the structure and independence. It's very, very, very clear. It was clear before we started, but it's way, way clearer now that as an educational option from an academic standpoint, there's not a better place. I mean, my boys would have done what I did in public school and gotten A's and B's without doing any work, and that doesn't happen at NMMI. And that's what we wanted. I mean, we wanted some academic rigor for our kids, and again, maybe a little social commentary that you didn't ask for, but I think in society today, there's there's not a whole lot of discipline left. Seems like the culture is kind of working against us raising our kids with some structure and some discipline, and we knew at NMMI they were going to get some of that. So.
And then to keep it with you two, what were your kids' initial reaction when you said, we're going to look at NMMI as an option? I mean, were they all in? Was it, well, I don't know, but can you just talk kind of about their initial reaction when you brought NMMI up?
Well, we've been telling them since they were little kids that they were going to go to NMMI. So they knew all along that they were going to go to NMMI. And again, we sent Jackson to leadership camp here the summer before. 1 full year before he matriculated, and that was a real positive experience for him. He really liked it, he loved it, or whatever. So we had no issues with the kids getting them to accept the idea or to even embrace the idea that they were going to NMMI. Now Jackson's first impression on campus was a bit of a shocker for him, and difficult for him, and difficult for us certainly too. But again, like I said in the beginning, that was all redeemed pretty quickly. I mean, really, it was most of that first semester, by Christmas that was redeemed completely, and they've been gung ho ever since.
And then Nina, what about you? What was the initial reaction from your kids when NMMI was the option they were gonna look at?
My eldest son, who graduated in 2018 from junior college, back when he went to NMMI, there was no communication whatsoever from our cadet. So by the time we saw him again or heard from him again, things were okay. It was about a month later. Things were okay. He was happy, but he did share with us that there were times where he was crying in his room, did not want to be here, but challenged himself. The Institute does a great job of putting it back on the kid to challenge themselves, to be proud of what they're accomplishing. And 1 month later, they're a whole different kid. The second kid at NMMI, he was happy, just like Mason. He knew he was coming here. It's what he wanted to do. He had a ton of friends that he made right off the bat, and he was a happy camper, not really a camper, but a cadet at NMMI. And my third one that did not make it, he was miserable. He because I think he was raised at NMMI, he thought he knew how it worked, and it was complete opposite. The other day was telling me how he went to take care of business. They told him, we're going to go get your rifles from the DLC. Well, he knew where the DLC was, so he took him and his roommate to the DLC to get their rifles, and had to do push-ups when they arrived without their troop. Didn't know how to salute, and they were asked to salute people. So he was in shock, but he adapted pretty well that first semester. He came through. The second semester he dropped back down, and I swear that a lot of COVID had to do with that, and being here at NMMI, and that was his only contact, and missing friends that he had back at home. It was a super hard adjustment for him.
Well, we've got some great questions coming in. I know that Travis kept talking about leadership camp. We used to offer a junior leadership camp in the summer for students entering 6th through 9th grade. That stopped around the time COVID hit, so that camp is no longer running. I don't know that we'll bring it. I know it's not coming back this summer. It might come back in the future. Also, you heard the term RAT. A RAT is a recruit at training. So all first semester students are considered a RAT until the end of that semester. And then the whole core of RAT cadets transitions to an old cadet at the same time. As far as what grades does NMMI have, so we have 9th through 12th grade, and then 2 years you can get an associate's degree in liberal arts or science from the college program. In-state cost is $16,000 and change. That's before any scholarships. Out-of-state cost is about $24,000 and change. That's the annual cost for 1 year. And again, that's without any scholarships. There's plenty of scholarships available for in-state students, especially with the legislative scholarship. That's about half of the total cost to attend. And then out-of-state students, there's plenty of scholarships available as well. And NMMI gives away about $2.3 million in scholarships annually through endowed funds that have been set up by alumni, patrons, family, and then friends of NMMI. So, but please do keep those questions coming. Dina, kind of back over to you. I know you had your kids in the public school system before they came to NMMI. What difference did you see in your child's education? And I know we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but what difference did you see in your child's education at NMMI compared to that public school route?
More one-on-one time. The class sizes are 14, I think, is the largest class size, or 16 might have been the largest class size. My sons got to focus on writing. My sons got to focus on math. I remember Ian, my oldest son, his English teacher, telling me he has a lot of work to do. He is not at grade level. But I think by the end of his freshman year of high school, he was able to put sentences together, paragraphs together. He was able to do a whole lot more than he was ever challenged to do at the public school. Also critical thinking. They were given that chance to think and have to write it down on paper. And those boys can whip out a paper like no tomorrow that I don't think they could have done had we kept going.
And then Travis and Tommy, I think you guys homeschooled your kids, if I remember correctly, before they came to NMMI. Can you talk about the difference in that educational component, though, before and then after they got to NMMI?
So very different than Dina's experience. I homeschooled them, and then they also went to a classical Christian Lutheran school where we had small class sizes and a lot of one-on-one interaction. The difference, I think, is that they had a lot of help and didn't have the opportunity to take much ownership over what they were doing and the grades that they were getting, because it was so small in our church community and homeschool. And here, there's plenty of help, but they have to seek it out. They have to seek out the help. They have to make a point to go in early for tutoring. They have to speak with their teachers on their own. Whereas before, we were offering that help and offering that, and they didn't have to go out of their way. So they had the grades that they earned. They felt a lot more ownership over, and that was a positive thing. That's exactly what we wanted, was for them to feel that ownership, that I earned this grade, good or bad. This is what I did, and what can I do to make it better, and not what are you going to do to help me make it better.
I also might add, I mean, Tommy and I both came up in the public school system, and one of the things about the public school system that's horribly lacking, I think everywhere, it's certainly lacking in New Mexico, but I think it's lacking everywhere, is a sense of ownership from the staff, right? I mean, when I was coming up in school, in public school, there wasn't anybody that appeared to give a rip, what I did or didn't do. Whereas if you choose to do poorly at NMMI, and you can choose to do poorly at NMMI, but if you choose to do poorly at NMMI, there's consequences. One of the things that, I'll probably say again in another question, it's really one of my favorite things about NMMI is that NMMI offers consequences to our kids that look a whole lot like life. I mean, when you get out of school and you fail to show up for work on time, you might lose your job, right? I mean, if you fail to show up on time to public school, you might get written up, slap on the wrist or something. Maybe more often than not, it's just a mark. You were tardy this day or whatever. If you can't fail to show up to school for homeschool, right? Because mom gets you out of bed and it's time to go to work. So NMMI was that perfect blend of independent, for us, was that perfect blend of independence with real consequences that really begin to train our kids to understand that they have to be willing to bear the consequences for their failure to act, and to rejoice and celebrate the successes that their decisions and their willingness to adhere to the structure will necessarily provide. Also, it's like a college campus in the sense that there's tutoring available every night. There's study hall hours. I mean, it's a very much a college campus in that regard. There's help everywhere if you need it or want it, and that's not something that's necessarily available anywhere else.
And Travis, to kick the next question back to you and Tommy, and you kind of already answered this, and I talk about this with parents all the time. NMMI really teaches the kids how to fail. And I mean that in a good sense, because then we pick you back up and show you that there are two avenues that both lead to success. You've just got to stand back up. Real life situations, you work really hard for a leadership position and you don't get it. You work really hard in a class and you're hoping to get an A, and you fall just short and get a B, but it's the best B you've ever earned because you know that you've earned that grade. So the question to kick back to you guys is what was the biggest advantage you saw for your child or children by sending them and having them attend NMMI?
Well, I mean, again, to kind of beef up the previous comment. I mean, consequences. I mean, real consequences. I mean, we can ground our kids. We can take away the things they like, or we can keep them from playing their sports, or we can, there are things that we can do, consequences we can execute that are never going to feel anything like the real world because it's from us, right? I mean, it's from us, and we're parents, and and quite often, I don't want to admit that this happens to me, but quite often, you're like, all right, I mean, he's been grounded long enough, kind of thing, or whatever. The consequences in NMMI are black and white. I mean, the consequence, it's you fail here, this is what's going to happen. You're going to march tours, or you're going to do push-ups, or you're going to not be able to participate in some of the things that you might be, might enjoy participating in. You're not going to get ranked. You're not. Those are all black and white, and that's like the real world. I mean, the real world has some very black and white consequences for failure to, to do your job. And I'm not sure that there's much of any way at 14 or 15 years old that these kids can get that kind of real picture of what the world is like, right? So, for us, or for me, I think, that the disciplinary aspect was something. There were times, and I'm sorry to digress, but there were a couple of times, again, Dina mentioned the COVID year. I mean, that was just a tough year around here. And some of these kids got real cabin fever, I mean, they started, they just started freaking out, and it was the first time since Jackson had been here that he'd had any disciplinary issues. He'd done a pretty good job of staying out of trouble before then. But, as the cabin fever set in and these guys decided they wanted to, goof off and break some of the big one was the contact deal. I mean, that became a 64-64. If you were, I think they called it endangerment or something like that. And so if you've got more than two people in a room, then you're like, you may be on marching tours for an entire weekend or whatever. And that was a very real slap in the mug for Jackson, who'd been able to kind of coast along, didn't get in any kind of trouble or whatever. And all of a sudden he's like, man, I'm burning weekends marching up here. I mean, that's not right, whatever. Well, hey, man, welcome to the world. This is how it works. You fail to adhere to the standard, the law, the job description or whatever, and there's consequences. And that all by itself is one, and NMMI's, how well NMMI sticks to their guns. I remembered a situation with a friend of Jackson's during that same period of time who, I didn't know anything about his past. I just knew he was Jackson's friend, and I knew his family. His family were good people from Texas that we had known for generations, really. And he got kicked out. He got kicked out over functionally kind of the same thing that Jackson had in terms of disciplinary issue. And I mean, I felt like I got to call and intercede for this guy. So I mean, I'm calling up the food chain, going, hey, this is a good guy, he's a good kid or whatever. And then he's like, hey, listen, we have a system. Your son's not getting kicked out for this offense because he had gone a year before that with any demerits, and and he gets the benefit of an opportunity here. But this kid didn't have the same situation, and as a result, this kid is gonzo. And that was hard for me to wrap my head around at the time, but I realized in hindsight and pretty quickly after the fact that that's really what makes NMMI so special. Is that you get all sorts of things. I know I remember thinking that so many people sent their troubled kids to military school, kind of thing. And the reality is those troubled kids are welcome. But if they don't toe the line and get in line pretty quick, they're gonzo, right? And that's the kind of thing that our kids need to see sooner than later in their lives. So.
And Dina, over to you. What about, what's the biggest advantage you saw by sending your boys to NMMI?
I'm going to tell you a little bit about my middle son, Gus. He is a real introvert. He wouldn't look at people in the eyes. He had a hard time talking to people. But he's really good at following instructions. He's really good at doing what you ask him to do. So my husband and I thought that he was just going to make a wonderful cadet. He'd probably get great leadership experience, but we knew that he had that downside where he had a hard time talking to people, looking them in the eye, and he now is able to talk to people, look them in the eye. I watched him do a presentation the other day in class. I was very proud of him. He had no problems getting through it. He has done very well at NMMI, and very pleased with his leadership, his composure, just how he presents himself. Same with our oldest son that attended. He's very positive, very confident, in all that he does. He tackles the world and has no problem doing it. Very confident. And I don't know without NMMI that they would have learned that at home.
So then I think the flip side of that question, initially, Dina, did you have any initial concerns way back when Ian started?
With him not making it, or
Just any concerns with NMMI in general? I mean, going into this boarding school environment, were there any initial concerns? I know it probably gets a little easier with what to expect as, the second and third one come to NMMI, but initially with that band, what kind of initial concerns before they got here and fully immersed themselves, maybe did you have?
Oh, I worried about them getting beat up, or I worried about them getting into trouble, learning things that they didn't know before they went to NMMI. They are going to school with junior college individuals and starting at the age of 14. So I was very concerned with what they're going to learn, what they're going to be exposed to, and just had the talks with them before that, hey, there's always an adult out there for help. Those were valid concerns. Even though I worked here, I'm very biased. I love this place, but I did worry.
And then Travis, Tommy, what about you guys when Jackson first got here? What concerns maybe did you have initially that obviously eased away over time? But I know there's always that knee-jerk reaction when you send your kid out of the nest into a boarding school environment.
Yeah. Well, they're a little more difficult to recall right now. We're still kind of on the high from graduation, and yay, we did it. But I do remember I had some of the same concerns that Dina had. He's only 14. He's a baby. And I'm sending him out there with kids from all over the world and all ages. And he's going to have to figure this out. And is he going to get bullied? And, they're taking showers together. And I mean, all the things that can cross a mother's mind, all the bad things do. And of course that he was homesick, and he was very homesick. But I tell you, the first time that he had the opportunity to come home, I felt like I was talking to a different person. I just think that he matured and grew up so much in those first few weeks and was proud of what he had accomplished, that those fears were quickly, they were alleviated. I just was so proud of what he had done, and it had been so hard for him, particularly just because of the kind of kid he is. He's kind of a homebody and maybe a little bit of a mama's boy, and
it's a little more than a little bit. He's a total mama's boy, and to add value to the comment, I mean, so this is another thing that NMMI does just masterfully. I mean, you do have all these kids from all over the world, totally different levels of experience. We really worked hard to kind of cloister our children growing up with the hope that we could kind of manage their way through maturity and that kind of thing. And you're just lying awake at night going, my son, heard about weed for the first time in his life today, or some guy, is telling him about something he did that he's never even thought about because we, like I said, we kind of cloistered him or whatever. And again, NMMI steps in. They catch these things, they see these things, they're paying attention to these things, and for all of the dangerous circumstances that we were concerned about, it just seemed every time like NMMI was ahead of the game. They were just, I'm on the phone with Chris going, hey, dude, what? And he's like, hold tight, bro. Just let our process work itself out. And sure enough, they've just been doing it 150 years. It's a masterful, it's really a masterful job that they do at protecting our kids. At the same time, they give them some independence and some personal decisions about what they do. It's really, really one of the best things about the school.
And then Tommy, not to exclude Travis, but you kind of already touched on this. The next question I'm going to throw your way. What was the adjustment like for you, and also, for Jackson and then Mason that first year?
Well, not having him home, obviously, the biggest thing, we just felt like we were missing somebody, and we didn't get to see him as often as we wanted to. So that was a big adjustment for us. And then him coming back and kind of reassimilating into the family for holidays and summers was a deal. I mean, he's been on his own, making his own choices about what he does with his time, and someone else has been telling him when to get up and what to wear every day. But that's very different from your mom now telling you, get up and make your bed and do this and do that. And he kind of bristled at that. So those, and I see that too with Mason, like I've got this, I've been doing this, and you haven't been telling me what to do. And look, I've succeeded, I've accomplished all of this. And then coming back into the family, working into that dynamic was and still is a big adjustment.
And then Dina, kind of the same question over to you. What was the adjustment period like for you and then your boys?
Oh, I think Tommy did a wonderful job explaining it. It's true. They almost forget that they have parents and that we expect things to be done a certain way at home, or we want to see those things that they learned at military school happen in our house. I want to see that clean room, which doesn't always happen. So it makes me wonder, are they really cleaning their rooms at military school? We want them to wake up in the morning, and they're not waking up in the morning. Just makes you, it's not easy to get back to what you had before. But your kid is a whole different kid, very independent, just a whole different being. I'd trade it. I don't need to go back to what we had before.
And then Dina, I'm going to keep you on the spot just for a second, then we can kick this over to Travis and Tommy. But one of the questions that came in is, are there competitive sports at NMMI?
Oh, that's a very good question. Yes, there are competitive sports at NMMI. My kids played football and baseball in high school. Our baseball team just won a state championship. They are #1 in the state of New Mexico. And I swear that's what helped my kids adapt at NMMI. They got to play their favorite sport. They played a lot of their favorite sport, all the way from freshman to their senior year in high school.
And then Travis, Tommy, I know that your kids, I don't believe that they play football, but from a competitive sports angle, I know you're involved in a couple of different options with your boys as well.
Yeah, Jackson has, since he's been here, he he ran cross country, went to state with the tennis team as a freshman, won state as a junior in golf, went to state again this year as a senior in golf. Mason played soccer in the fall and played tennis and golf in the spring. And honestly, the competitive sports thing is just real fundamental to the way that I think, some of these boys particularly should be raised. And they've got more options at New Mexico Military Institute than they'd have going just about anywhere else.
I think
and more professional options. I mean, NMMI teams have all the right gear, they have the right coaches, they have the buses, and it's like playing college sports in high school. It's awesome.
And just to add to that, we have 23 athletic teams overall between the high school and the junior college. So everything from football, golf, tennis, soccer, track, cross country, swimming at the high school level as well, baseball. At the college level, we're going to have basketball, men's basketball, football, women's volleyball, cross country, men's and women's tennis, and then men's golf. So we have the full slate of athletic teams. Typically, NMMI is going to have everything that you would see at a traditional high school. So we have dances, we have homecoming, we have sporting events, you name it, we're going to match up. I think the biggest thing is when you start looking at cadet activities and educational academic opportunities, you're probably going to see more at NMMI in those realms. One of the other questions that came in was, are scholarships based on merit or financial need? I'm going to let Dina answer this. She's the CFO here at NMMI. So Dina, are scholarships based on merit or need or both?
They are based on both. So we have lots of scholarships for financial need. And we have a lot of scholarships based on merit. We have a lot of scholarships at NMMI. And it doesn't take much to get in for one of those scholarships. You fill out the form. I guess when you first start, you just have to be a cadet here. But there's forms that they send out throughout the semester that says, hey, do you meet any of this criteria? And you fill out that form and check the boxes, and you're in the running for lots of our scholarships available at NMMI.
And just an add-on, and we'll get to this in a sec, applications are open. And when you fill out the application to NMMI for the fall of 22 or spring of 23, the last 2 pages of that application are actually the scholarship section. So when you submit it before you've been formally accepted, we're still in process of getting all the documents we need to accept a student or reject a student, but just to finalize a decision, financial aid is working immediately to build out your initial award letter based on how you've answered some of those questions. So Travis, Tommy, another question that came in over to you. We've got a young person that is going to potentially come in as a junior, and they're just curious, and I want to relate this kind of to Mason, but how quickly can they expect to earn rank and like leadership opportunities?
Well, if you are another interesting angle to me, if you are motivated by leadership, just so my first son, Jackson, not motivated by leadership at all. He's motivated by sports. That's what he wants the most. He gave all of his extra time, energy, effort, or whatever to his sports, and leadership wasn't a big deal to him. So he never came back for cadre, never did any of those things. And as a result, as a senior, by the end of the first semester, Mason, as a freshman, outranked my senior.
No, I had the same
Or they had the same rank by the time Mason had finished his fall semester. He's motivated by leadership. You know, he really cranks on it, and it would blow my mind if he didn't, if he wasn't regimental commander one of these days, because he's motivated to do it. He'll do the work, right? But to answer the question directly, a junior coming in, no different than my freshman coming in, can rank up quickly, as quickly, candidly, as they're willing to work for it, because it's work. You have to want to be in leadership. If you want to be in leadership, you can rank up very quickly just by checking the boxes, doing the do. So.
And then one last question really quick. Are there religious opportunities available as well as counseling? And the answer to that question is yes to both. We actually have a chapel on campus. It does a Protestant service Sunday morning, a Catholic Mass Sunday afternoon. The chaplain can do some counseling. We've also got a cadet counseling center. If someone just needs to vent, talk about their feelings or anything like that, that was a component we really added because of COVID. We knew that we were going to have a lot of students that were just struggling. I mean, it kept them locked down. They didn't have social interaction for so long that we wanted to add that component to NMMI. So yes to both of those questions. Again, I had mentioned that applications are open for the fall of 22, the spring of 23. We have plenty of scholarships available. Please feel free. You can check all that stuff out online at www.nmmi.edu. Dina, over to you. Can you talk a little bit about how campus life at NMMI compares to the public school campus life that your boys would have seen if they would have went to one of the public schools here in Roswell?
Oh, campus life at NMMI is, the way I describe it is it's its own little community. They've got a post office, they've got a PX, they've got a game room that I don't think is going to be at the public school, a Starbucks, a bowling alley. You know what we should have mentioned during the sports talk is our state-of-the-art Cahoon Armory. Brand new locker rooms, which are going to be amazing. High school cadets are going to have locker rooms that are at the level of college locker rooms. It's a community within itself. Tutoring in the mornings with their instructors, tutoring in the evening with their instructors, a guided night study hall. There's so much available at NMMI that is not available at the public school.
And Travis, Tommy, anything you guys want to add to that you've seen as far as, campus life compared to, other high school institutions that maybe you've been at from traveling, watching your kids play sports and whatnot?
So the thing that strikes me when you ask that question is the level of decorum that they learn. My boys act more like gentlemen, just taking their hats off when they enter a building and saying yes, ma'am. And that's something that struck me when we were touring as very impressive. Every cadet that I passed acknowledged me and said, "Good afternoon, ma'am," or "Good morning, ma'am." And that's so impressive to me. And I thought that's how I want my boys to act, holding the doors for people, just proper decorum and gentlemanly behavior that they learn here, and that's a part of their life every single day. It's expected of them, and that does translate when they come home, and I appreciate it. I love it. It makes me very proud.
Well, I think the way that I would answer that question is, these boys, you ask about the community, the community aspect of our campus life at NMMI. It's a community in and of itself. After all of them, after any of them have been here for a semester, they know everybody. They know everybody on campus, and it's funny. There's lots of different groups. They don't. Not all of them have the same interest, have the same whatever, but there's a group for everybody. There's a group for everybody, and it's funny to me. We come for a lot of the football games and stuff like that, and random kids will roll by and they'll be like, "Oh, hey, what's up, so and so? What's up, so and so?" Whatever. I'm like, "You know them? You know them? Yeah. Oh, yeah. We know everybody. We know. These guys. They're and just like any community, they fight together and they love together and they have fun together, and there's a bit of accountability that amongst them that I've never seen in kids in different circumstances. I mean, I had a kid explaining to me today, another cadet explaining to me today why my son didn't do as well last semester as he should have. He was telling on it. He's just like, yeah, he's staying up too late. He's, whatever else. They get a sense of accountability to one another, and they get a sense of community that I don't think you could ever possibly get in a circumstance where they're not living together. I mean, these kids are living together and they're growing up together and they're learning things together. And the fact that there's 15-year-olds all the way up to 21-year-olds in the same place adds an element of value to that learning experience. The rules are no different for the 20-year-old than they are for the 15-year-old, but the 20-year-old's experience is going to be different, and being able to relay that and the interaction between them, I actually get emotional. We've had so many of these kids at our house. We've kind of adopted some of these out of town kids because we live here. We've adopted a bunch of them over the years, and they come to our house, and they feel like our kids. They feel like our kids, and they feel like brothers with my boys, and that's irreplaceable. And you hear all you hear growing up in a family that has a lot of, NIMI background, all you hear is about these friendships that will last a lifetime. Well, it's more than that. It's not friendships that last a lifetime. It's like growing up next to your brother. You never forget your brother because of what you learned together and what you experienced together, how you matured together. And that to me is one of the most important aspects of campus life at a boarding school, and particularly at New Mexico Military Institute.
Can I say something else, Chris?
Absolutely.
Travis reminded me of another big reason why we sent our children or our boys to NMMI was the diversity that they experience here. Oh my gosh, my kids have met other kids their same age from Egypt, Africa, Germany, Korea, China, you name it, all over the place, many different religions. They know kids that are Jewish, they know Muslims. This has been a great experience, and I really hoped for that. My husband and I both hoped that sending them to NMMI, they would experience diversity like they've never experienced it before, or that they could at the local public school. I should have shared that a long time ago.
Yeah, here. I totally agree with that.
And I think to that point, Dina, at the start of the fall semester, we had 36 foreign countries represented on campus within the Corps of Cadets. So diversity is a big component of everything. This next question, Dina, I know you guys have both kind of touched on it already, but how quickly did they make friends and adjust to being away from home?
I'm going to tell you about my third one, which was the hardest. He had a very hard time making friends at NMMI. It took him, I would say, weeks. And we're lucky that we are from Roswell. So any local kid that was here, he latched onto, but not all those local kids stuck around. He finally found a good friend, probably the second semester that he was here, which I think was part of his problem. The other two, he missed, the one that didn't make it here missed his friends terribly bad. The other two didn't have as hard a time. They met friends almost immediately within that first week, second week, third week. They had good friends.
And then Travis, Tommy, what about your boys? How quickly did they, make friends? And I know maybe they came in with some friends being from Roswell, but friends from out of town. I know when they get paired with a roommate, we try to keep the local kids not paired together that first semester. So how quickly were your boys able to adjust and make friends?
Oh, right away. Right away. Some of it's personality, but some of it is just common experience. These kids, all of them are shocked at what they're having to, coming out of the gate, like, what in the world is this, kind of thing. And it's like what they say about battle. It forms some relationships pretty quickly. Over the course of Jackson's career, again, just having graduated this past Saturday, he has a huge group of friends from Dina hit it on the head. We've had kids at our house from China, from Spain, from Switzerland, from Mexico, just all over the place. And they're just, when they've got their uniforms on, there's no difference between them. And they may have a different experience, coming in or whatever, but they're going through the same things together every day. And it tends to form relationships very quickly. Again, personality of the kid has something to do with that, but the environment is such that the kids very quickly make friends. Again, it's like going into battle together. It's like, I'll stick with you if you stick with me, and that turns into lots of relationships that have been just invaluable. I was just bawling my head out graduation day, watching, my son interact with these guys that he's grown up with over here, and watching them, say goodbye. That was tough. That was really tough for me because these relationships become very important to them, right? Very important to them. So.
And keeping it with you and Tommy, we talked about sports a little bit, but talk about some of maybe the extracurricular activities that your cadets have had a chance to participate in during their time at NMMI?
Well, the director of admissions has sworn they would help my freshman son get a fishing team started over here. And that's, sorry, I had to take the pot shot. They have, I mean, it's really limitless, the kinds of things, these kids go, they get a furlough weekend and they go skiing, up at the hill. And NMMI even facilitates these kids who don't have the means or, whatever, to get up to the hill. I mean, NMMI's got, a way to facilitate the ski trip. NMMI's got a way to facilitate really lots and lots of things that you never even think of on the high school level, at least. There's all sorts of clubs, these kids, if they're interested in, you name it, everything from photography. Oh, the paintball deal here is just it's a monster. I mean, these kids, there's an awesome paintball thing, and so many of these kids love the paintball thing. Yeah, I don't know that I can do the question justice, because there's a long list of available extracurricular activities. And NMMI does a good job also for kids that are, which is the majority of the kids that are from somewhere else, of finding, people locally to wrap their kids up. We've even before my kids were at NMMI, we would adopt, a NMMI student and ambassador program, I think is what you guys called it, but take them to church with us, take them out for a meal, let them crash on our couch for the afternoon, whatever. NMMI does a good job of facilitating a way for kids to really be who they want to be, do the kinds of things they want to do. Yeah, you think, oh, I'm gonna send them to a military school and they'll never get to do their favorite thing again. Well, name their favorite thing, and I'm gonna go ahead and roll the dice and say, 75-80% of the time, NMMI's got it for them, right?
And then Dina, anything you want to add to that as far as extracurricular activities go?
Oh, I agree with Travis. You name it. And if it's not there, the cadets tend to find a way to make it happen. They'll find a sponsor to make a new club so that they can wrestle, so that they can ballroom dance, so that they can kickbox or box. And I don't know that those are the actual clubs that we have available right now, but they make things happen that they want to do or that they might miss back home.
And then we touched on some of this. Dina, do you want to elaborate a little bit on some of the academic supports that are in place for the cadets?
Sure. NMMI provides tutoring at 7:15 every morning. And it's your cadet has to be the one to initiate it. There are some instructors that will require it or make it mandatory, but they're always available at 7:15 in the morning. Their instructor that has given them the lesson for that tutoring session is available. There's a night study hall each night where cadets are responsible for completing their homework, doing assignments, where there may be tutoring available at that point in time. They also have some support, and I can't remember the name of it, Chris, but it's an online tutoring tool where you can get tutored in any subject at any time. You log in and get that help that you might need. The school also has a great support system, something called an early warning system, where teachers can comment about the kids' performance, good or bad. They are able to, if your student is performing poorly, maybe put into a night guided study hall, where it's mandatory for the cadet to attend this to get their grades back in a spot where they do not need that guided night study hall. Your first semester, every cadet, I think, is placed in night study hall to become adapted to that night study hall. What's expected of you? What do you need to study? What do you need to do? What homework do you need to do? There's lots of kids that don't do their homework because they've never had homework.
And then Tommy and Travis, I think the big thing here is you guys aren't here, so you can't physically check that your kids have done their homework, but getting updates from teachers, functioning in Canvas. Can you talk about what that's like for you as a parent so that you stay entrenched with what is going on academically while your cadet is here?
Well, okay, so something that we missed earlier when we were talking about counselors and that kind of thing is first and foremost is mentioning the academic advisors. The academic advisors are invaluable to your kid's career. I mean, they take a huge interest to begin with. When the kids don't respond, they chase them until they respond, and are just critical to ensuring that the parents also are aware of what's going on. So you get a weekly update, and during finals time, you'll get a daily update. The weekly update on your kids' progress. Dina mentioned that the teachers will put notes in there if they want to get a message to you that, whatever. We found that if you engage the teachers, and the teachers are more than willing, Chris won't be surprised to know that I have a 6-page text thread with Roger Castillo on my phone from this semester, because Jackson was having trouble in class, and it was like all hands on deck. Let's make sure we get this thing handled. And the professor is texting me, me personally, because I engaged and wanted to. But he's also communicating with kids. You can go on Canvas at any given time, see if your kid's turning in their assignments or not. So it actually gives us parents an opportunity to be as involved as we'd like to be in our kids' education. And NMMI really matches your effort plus some, right? So if I'm willing to put in, an hour's worth of effort a week into making sure my kid's doing okay, NMMI's putting in 5 hours, right? I mean, the level of my interest is matched plus some by the NMMI staff. And I mean, and again, we had this experience this semester. They've always been there. I mean, they've always been there. We just didn't need the kind of help that we got this last semester. We didn't need it until this last semester. And but man, when we looked for it, it was there. I mean, and the whole staff. And I mean, I can't short sell the value of the academic advisors. I mean, watching those kids graduate, and half of them, unscripted, stopping to hug Jasmine, is it's about as good a statement as I can make about the impact that those advisors have on those kids' careers.
Please do keep the questions coming. A couple that came in from online. Does NMMI have programs that help students get into the service academies? Absolutely. We also serve as a prep school for the service academies. So if that is something you want to pursue as your academic career and your lifestyle, we are here for that. What are the rules regarding phones? Phones, we do not take phones away anymore. When the cadets first get here, we use that as a safety mechanism. If we have to lock campus down, we can do accountability by using phones. There are times that students are not allowed to, or cadets are not allowed to have their phones out. So as long as you're staying within the rules, you absolutely can have a phone while you're a cadet at NMMI. One question from a parent, their daughter's in 7th grade, interested in the fall of 23 semester. How soon should they begin the application process? The application will open for the fall of 23 in the middle of August. So you can start applying in the middle of August. The sooner you get that paperwork turned in, the sooner we'll screen your future cadet for scholarships. So the sooner the better. But that application will not become available until after August of 2022. And then the last question before we move on, where do graduates from NMMI go? Dina, I'll kick this over to you. I know that Ian is no longer here, and the one that just graduated is moving on. So can you give a little hint towards where some of our graduates go to college once they leave NMMI?
Oh, my graduates are going to New Mexico State in Las Cruces, New Mexico, but I have seen cadets go many, many places. Harvard, Yale, you name it, they'll go to those schools. They'll also go to prep, or not prep schools. We had 2 twin boys. I watched the graduation who graduated both from high school and junior college this past weekend. One is going to the Naval Academy and the other twin is going to West Point. cadets go to Texas A&M. They go all over the world. They go back to their college in Mexico. It's all over the place.
And I think one neat thing, NMMI has a lot of articulation agreements with regional schools, Texas Tech, TCU, Arizona State, UNM, New Mexico State, where it just guarantees that the credits you earn here as a cadet will transfer without any hiccups. And, you know, Travis, Tommy, over to you. Jackson just graduated on Saturday. How many college credits did he have when he graduated from high school?
I'm not sure because I haven't seen that, but he did get some. And, you know, in mentioning what Dina was talking about, the Zimmermans, you know, those boys came into NMMI with the intention of going to military school, and they left NMMI going to military school. And that's probably as well as it can be stated. Where do you want to go? From here, I saw a piece of marketing one time. From here, anything is possible, and that really is an accurate statement. NMMI preps you for whatever you want to do next, and those schools recognize NMMI, the quality of education the kids are getting come out of NMMI. So.
And then Dina, over to you again. I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but if you want to elaborate, you know, what has the military structure, this military model that we use, you know, at the end of the day, only about 18% of our cadet population choose to go the military route. We just use the military model to provide, and Travis and Tommy both have elaborated on this, time management skills, structure. What do you think is the most impactful thing that military model has provided your cadets during their time here?
Well, my boys are organized. You tell them to be somewhere at a certain time and they are there early. They know they're disciplined. They know how important it is to, if you say you're going to do something, to do it. I think organization, discipline, they have that's paid off here at NMMI.
And Travis, Tommy, anything you guys want to add to that you think that military model, military structure has really provided to your students, your cadets?
So my boys, you know, I said the decorum and that I appreciate that, but my boys also have a sense of pride about the Corps that they belong to. And the standards that are upheld. And if they see those standards slipping anywhere, they see somebody that isn't quite dressed right or isn't quite acting right, they feel that that's a reflection on them and a reflection of their Corps of cadets, and they take that personally and they take it hard, and they feel like that needs to be corrected and they don't like it. And I love that. I love that they have that sense of belonging and that sense of pride about what they've accomplished and what they're a part of.
Travis, anything you want to add to that, sir?
Well, you know, it goes back a little bit to what, you know, I talked about quite a bit in the beginning, and that is that, you know, what the military structure does is it provides a very, very clear path to success. And it provides a very clear path to failure too. It offers up consequences at every step along the way, and I believe that the helping children to draw a relationship early in their lives between action or failure to action and the requisite consequences is something that probably better prepares them for life than just about anything that can be done. I would say, I mean, if we were having a cocktail and just discussing it, I would tell you that I think that like Switzerland, every kid has to spend 2 years in the military right when they get out of prep school. The reason that they do that is because these things, these disciplinary things, these structure and organizational things, understanding a chain of command and what a chain of command is about. I mean, how many kids do we run into that think because they're alive they should be in charge of something? The military structure adds all of the value for growth and maturity at a much earlier age, I think, than they would get it any other way.
And then Dina, over to you. I think one of the misconceptions with parents is, you're going to send your kid to boarding school, and on top of that, it's got a military feel. It's a military boarding school. And they're worried that as a parent, they don't get to have any involvement, or it's going to be limited. Can you talk about your experience and how much involvement you've been able to have as a parent with cadets at NMMI?
This is not the military. NMMI is not the military. So as Travis said earlier, as much as effort that you put into this, you'll get to participate in their education as well, their extracurricular activities as well. It's just what you want to be part of, and what the Institute is willing to allow. There's a lot that they don't keep you out of it as a parent. They welcome parents' activity. They welcome parent involvement. There's a lot available to parents.
And Travis, Tommy, anything? Yeah, you go ahead. You can add to that.
Well, I think also the you got to think about it. I mean, every kid on this campus wears the same shirt, the same pants, the same shoes, the same belt, right? The only distinguishing characteristic between them is the medals that they've earned, right? I mean, that's the only distinguishing characteristic. When, depending on the situation your kid's in, I mean, there's not a fashion show happening every day, right? There's not a who hasn't thing happening every day. It's amazing, all these kids that have been in my house over all these years. You can't look at any one of them and tell where they came from. And to me, that's a huge advantage. Any misconception you have about the whole military concept goes away really quickly when a kid whose dad is the president of Chevron is standing at the same, or sitting across the table from a kid whose dad sweeps, up the halls at the local, high school, and sitting there across from one another, the kid whose dad sweeps the halls at the local high school might outrank him, right? It makes a statement about the quality of your character that has nothing to do with means or who what your last name is or whatever. And man, what a fair shot that you get as a kid, that you walk into a situation where no one knows anything about you except for their experience with you and what you accomplish on site. Man, I mean, that's teaching kids early. That's teaching kids early what matters. Not what kind of truck you drive, but what is the content and quality of your character. That's what you get awarded for at NMMI, not for having the nicest pair of shoes.
All right, so we're down to our last question. So I'm going to go parent by parent here, and it might take a little longer to elaborate. Dina, you've had three cadets here, and then Travis and Tommy, you guys have two, so you can go with each one if it differs. But what is one thing your cadet has taken away from NMMI that you couldn't put a price tag on? And Dina, we'll start with you.
Dang it.
Dean, I'll have two,
No. I just the way they carry themselves. They are very confident individuals. And I can tell you the one that just graduated and was commissioned on Saturday was not a confident individual before attending NMMI. He can carry himself in a most positive manner. He interacts with individuals, and I know that it's going to help him be successful in the future to do what he wants to do. The other one, Ian, my eldest, same type of thing. He is very confident, very cordial. He is a well-rounded individual, very educated. He knows a lot. The kid can talk about history. The kid can do math. He has majored in almost every subject in college. And I know that's because of all the things he experienced here at NMMI, all of his successful friends that he watched, all of his smart friends that he watched. I don't have a good answer for this, But Chris, I did want to share one thing before we're done. And I recommend, and I think it's available out there, if you go out to this past weekend's graduation and watch the valedictorian speeches. Taven Cunningham talked about what he took away from NMMI, or what each cadet is taking away from NMMI. And it was wonderful. And I think every parent out there questioning it should go watch what these valedictorians talked about in their speeches to get a feel for what their kid will experience here at NMMI and what they will take with them.
And then Tommy, we'll start with you. What's one thing that you can't put a price tag on that Jackson has learned, and then Mason as well?
Okay, well, there are two things for Jackson. First of all, the friendships, the depth of the friendships that he has here, that I know will be lifelong friendships because of what they have been through together, and what they've achieved together. And then the second for Jackson is the achievement. It's a big deal to graduate high school. It's a really big deal to graduate from NMMI, and to have done it with COVID in the middle, and to struggle through all of the normal things, but then those things on top of it, the smile on his face when he went across that stage, and I could see it all over him. The pride that he had over that achievement was priceless for sure. My younger one that just finished his freshman year, the opportunity to realize the God-given ability to lead people that he has. He's a leader, he's a born leader. And I don't know that anywhere else in the world he could get that opportunity to realize that, and to act that out, and to develop that the way that he is getting here.
Okay. And then Travis, I'm going to kick it over to you. I had to let Tommy steal your thunder and make you work for this one a little bit. So
Yeah, you really did. I mean, these ladies all, they stole all my stuff. I was gonna say the relationships too, just like Tommy, because I remember my relationships in high school, and for whatever it's worth, there's not one person that I went to high school with that I have, any real regular communication with. And I graduated with 900 people, there's Facebook and this and that, but I mean, not real relationships. And the reason, the difference is obviously just the experiences that they have together, that I think are irreplaceable. I don't think you can put a price on that. But to add a little value and throw something else out there, I think that probably the piece that outside of the things that we've said that is just priceless coming out of this education is the sense of pride that NMMI instills in these kids about what they accomplish here. I mean, he will stand in front of everybody he ever meets over the course of his life, and he will get a sense of pride about what he accomplished in high school. And I sure don't look back on my high school career and be like, well, I graduated. I mean, there's a sense of pride having done it here, because it takes more than just showing up. It takes getting the job done. It takes a level of discipline, organization, and adherence to policy and stuff like that creates a sense of pride. Dina was talking about how Gus, was a little shy, and maybe not as confident publicly or whatever before. I've watched Gus grow up. We've gone to church with Dina for 15 years now, and I've watched Gus grow up. And the difference between Gus today and Gus 3, 4, 5 years ago is like night and day. And every bit of it is a function of the confidence that this place develops in you. These NMMI boys, when they go to, they come over to our house a bunch, and they have a furlough or whatever, and I'll take them to a local, there was an FFA dance, and these guys want to go to the dance and see if they can meet some girls and whatever else. And those boys walk into a room that is full of mostly public school students, 200 of them, that all know each other, they go to school together. These NMMI boys walk into that room, the only NMMI kids there who don't know anybody at all, and they are standing head and shoulders above everybody in there, and everybody sees it. It's difficult to describe, but it's not difficult to witness. A kid that's spent any significant period of time at NMMI has got a carriage and an attitude and a confidence that is physically that you are physically able to witness. You can see it on their face. You can see it in their stature, the way they stand, their confidence, and they never mind the best public school on the planet can't recreate that. I mean, not even kind of.
Well, I want to thank you guys for agreeing to be on this tonight. I know it's always a tricky situation. It's not something that everybody is accustomed to and used to. And I want to thank everybody that tuned in and watched the YouTube live event tonight. Dina talked about the valedictorian speech, the recording of this event. Everything will post to our YouTube channel. Please check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Snapchat, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. Find us. We post stuff weekly, have weekly updates, but there's always new content, new updates coming out. And primarily it focuses a lot on the cadets and their experience. They live it, they breathe it, they eat it every day. And we want them to share their experience with you. So please do check that out. If you need more information, you can request that online at the admissions homepage. Just go to the NMMI website, www.nmmi.edu. And click on admissions and then request more information. We would love to drop a packet in the mail. I mentioned it earlier, applications for the fall of 22, spring of 23 are open. Within 24 hours or 1 business day from submitting that application, you will hear from an admissions representative. So please do check that out. Let us know if you have any questions. Again, thank you all for joining us tonight. And I hope you have a great night. One last thing to add. We do have an open house event coming up on Saturday, June 4th. We'll have a big event on campus. You'll be able to hear from different department heads, as well as our president superintendent, the commandant of cadets, the athletic director, and our academic dean. So if you are available on that Saturday, please come and join us. We would love to feed you breakfast, feed you lunch. We'll give you a tour of campus. It'll be a very in-depth, about 6 or 7 hour day for us. So please check that out. Again, thank you all. I hope you guys have a great night, and we look forward to hearing from you all soon.
Thanks.